He temporarily blinded me!
What you mean temporarily? Bitch, you blind forever.
Hello, lovely viewers. Thank you for joining us for Gamer Social Club's very first Spoilercast. My name is Daire, and I'm joined by the wonderful Candy. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi. Hello, I'm Candy. If you've watched Girl Pod ever, then you know me. Welcome to Spoilercast.
Yeah, so this is hopefully something that we're planning to do going forward, but we're starting here. So basically, if you have never played Dispatch, if you plan to play Dispatch, you might want to get the heck out of here because I kind of have it set to do a full rundown of each episode and all of the major choices. So we're going to be spoiling everything. But before we begin, if you enjoy this content, please make sure to hit the subscribe button to keep up to date on all of our future work and to check out our weekly news show and of course Girl Pod, which is hosted by Candy every week. Also, make sure to check out our base of operations at gamersocialclub.ca, the website that brings us all together, where you can find news, reviews, editorials, and some very helpful guides written by a passionate team of professional unprofessionals. So with that, this is your final warning. I'm going to give you one more chance.
Get out while you still can.
Yeah. And then come back. But play the game and come back.
Add this to watch later. YouTube has that great feature.
Yes. Yeah, and don't forget about it for a year like I always do. Yeah, so with that, let's get general thoughts out of the way first on Dispatch. I think that's probably the best thing to do. What are your general feelings on the game?
Oh my God. Okay, so I have always been a story-focused gamer, right? Like, I want a good story. And I know some people like gameplay mechanics. I want good story first, and then I can power through maybe some not-so-great mechanics. This is both, in my opinion, right? And we've talked a little bit about this, but I'm like, this to me, and if you're in the Discord, you've probably seen some of the chatter too, so make sure you're in the Discord. But, you know, this to me is easily like a 9 out of 10 game. The animation was so smooth. The story, even though at times it's a little bit tropey, right? It hit the notes in a beautiful way, in my opinion. But I think that's because the characters, even the ones that are a little bit more on the side, were fleshed out enough to really feel real. And like, I want to get to know them. Like, that to me is huge.
Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, there's another thing I guess we should probably mention first is just the cast is incredible for this game. Like, I'll give my thoughts generally and then we can dive into that. But I agree. Like, I am big on story and I'm big on presentation. Those are like my two things that I love. Not for every game, obviously, but obviously for this kind of game, which is, from some Telltale folk and is very narrative driven and choice based and stuff. And I think that this was done, especially in terms of presentation, in a way that we have never seen before. Like, the choice for this to be like FMV cutscenes, which is just full, like basically just animated television, and have that broken up by what I think is actually far more involved gameplay, with the actual dispatching, was just such a stroke of genius. And I've actually become warmer. I remember I was in your chat when you finished it, and I said that I think I was about an 8 for it. I actually, through replaying a little bit of it before this, I warmed up to it a little bit more. I'm like, no, the amount that they do with the 8 episode structure, the fact that those episodes are only maybe about 90 minutes long each and stuff, like I think it's so impressive and so cool.
I think they fit so, it's funny because I think they fit so much into those episodes without it being an overload. And I think, and I believe they said this on an interview, but it was a really nice way of pacing it, that it was the 2 episodes a week, because especially I think for older gamers or, whatever, who maybe don't have as much time because you have a partner or you have work or you have children or you have whatever it is, right? To know that, okay, I have maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of this game, and then I can put it down because I won't have anything else until the next week, but I can still be involved in that community chatter, right? I don't have to be afraid of looking at anything because there's not going to be the spoilers. I know there was one case where somebody like hacked the code to get the rest of it. And what was beautiful was the rest of the community was like, don't do that. And I was like, I love that. That's what we need more of. Like, but
No, totally. Yeah,
oh,
the week to week release and the fact the game, I talked about this on the news show, but the fact the game got bigger every
yes.
week was so cool. The fact that more
Hmm.
people were coming in and then reaching the same cliffhanger as everyone else. And
Yes.
it's different from the Telltale structure because Telltale, I remember, especially with like Batman, it was really bad where
Hmm.
it would be months between episodes. Wolf Among Us was also really bad for this. Months between episodes, and those episodes would end on pretty heavy, cliffhangers.
Yeah.
And for this, it's like knowing, okay, I just have to wait a week. Or in some, like one case, I didn't play it until like Sunday, and then I played it again on Wednesday when the new episode came out. Just a really good structure.
It was such a good structure, and full disclosure, I streamed my whole first playthrough, right? So people also got to like experience it in that way with me, and it was
Yeah.
also very interesting seeing people like, well, what about this choice, or I can't believe you did this. But I think it's moments like that that was also enough for people to be like, well, I'm gonna jump in and try it, right? Because I want to make different choices. I want to see how this plays out, right? And I think when you have a game that, yes, it sort of all ends in the same way, right? But your choices do matter with bigger plot points, and we'll dive into that, more. But there is obviously a narrative that they're trying to tell, and it's the end result may be very similar in a chunk of ways, but the way that you get there, this really feels like a story of it's not about the destination, it's the journey you take. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know that there's another game, maybe The Wolf Among Us when it came out, and I played The Wolf Among Us earlier this year for the first time, right? So
Oh, really?
yeah,
I
I
haven't
took a
played
while
it
to get
since it came
into
out.
it. I don't know what it was. It took a while for me to actually pick it up. And I've played a lot of the other Telltale things. I just hadn't played this one.
Mm.
But you know, it I think that's maybe the closest to what this is, right? With that journey being more important than how it ends. Although how it ends is it's still very, depending on which ending you get, actually, it can be very bittersweet, right? It can be amazing and uplifting, or bittersweet, or you might be angry and you have to be like, how did I mess this up so bad? And I have to go all the way back and do it again. But that's part of the fun, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I saw some people disappointed that I guess there's a lot of things that are in the ending. I don't want to say canon, but they're like a lot of people I think will get the same bones of an
Mm-hmm.
ending. But I think that that's just, like I wouldn't say a limitation of these kind of games, but I do
No.
think it is just a part of these kind of games that like, it's more so how you accept the ending. Because I got an ending that wasn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I guess we're in a spoiler cast, I can just talk about it.
Yeah.
I got an ending in which Coupe didn't rejoin the team,
That's
and
right.
I
You
had
mentioned that.
chosen her. Yeah, but I had gotten an ending in which like everybody loved Robert. Invisigal was redeemed. Everything else. There was this really great through line of like redemption in
Mm-hmm.
my run because Robert didn't kill Shroud and stuff. And I think ultimately, like I was really satisfied with that. And then also, I still had a little bit of significance in Coupe not rejoining. Like she
Mm-hmm.
just needs to kind of go on her own journey until she can come back, but that's just kind of that's what I inferred from my own ending, and I think it's cool that you can kind of do that, even if for me there's like a strict through line of redemption. That's not going to be everybody's experience.
Yeah. And I, all right, this is going to sound slightly pretentious, and I promise I don't mean it to sound pretentious, but I think that's what makes, not every video game, obviously, but I think that's what makes video games art, right? That
Oh
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
infer certain things from it, right? So in my ending, I did get Coupe back, right? Like she was able
yeah,
to rejoin. However, I did kill Shroud, right? But then it
yeah,
was the, you know, Robert wrestling with that, right? Because Blazer does ask him, like, how do you feel? And you have the opportunity to basically say, I don't know, right? And I
yeah,
think that's also a moment where, for me and my interpretation, he did this out of anger, out of revenge, out of all these negative feelings. And I think for me, as I'm playing through it, I'm like, this actually is something that can bring him closer to this team, because now
mm,
he knows what it feels like to take a life in the way that some of them know what it feels like. And that's just going to be something that can bring that bond together. And that doesn't inherently make him a bad person. It just means that he's human. He had this, emotional response, and now he has to grapple with that in a very similar way to many of them grappling with who I was and who I want to be now.
That's awesome. I actually love that. Yeah, because I hadn't, because like I said, the through line I had in my run of it being kind of about redemption and stuff, I had kind of felt like, is the game going to be kind of backhanded if you don't go for that? But yeah, no, the fact that everybody can kind of take their own significance from their own kind of journey and stuff, and the game is written well enough to allow that, I think is really cool. I do wonder, because I didn't have the heart to do it on my kind of half second run. I do wonder what it's like if you do just kind of play the dick to everybody, because there were some choices I wasn't brave enough to make, like towards I think it was Waterboy and Blazer. I think you can be kind of harsh to a few times, and I just, because I guess I should say as well, I romanced Invisigal in mine. Yeah, so but I know for you it was a little more complicated.
It was
it? Or because I just was like, yeah, I want the goth girl. Give me the goth girl.
At first I was like,
her.
no romance, and then finally I was like, all right, she's grown on me, she's a little sassy.
Yeah.
All right, fine. I did not find any interest in Blonde Blazer for a long time. And I think this is maybe one criticism of the story, and not in a bad way, just something that as I thought back on it and started to replay, I didn't see Blonde Blazer as a romance interest for a while. Although in the first episode I did kiss her because I was like, oh, well, this feels like two drunk people just being attracted to each other.
Yeah.
I was like, well, she felt kind of one note. She's just the good superhero. She's just whatever. But then when you finally see her be a real badass, it's not till episode 7, right? And I was like, oh, wait, there is something here. And then if you didn't make certain choices earlier, you don't learn more about her and really understand that she just wants someone to see her for who she is, which is not that different than what Invisigal wants, right?
Yeah,
at her core. She just has much more of a hard exterior. But until I saw that moment with Blazer, I was like, I don't really care about you. You're every Marvel superhero that's just so amazing and so powerful and so whatever. And I want something with edge. But the second playthrough that I have started, I have been much nicer or much more interested in Blazer. Although I did do the thing where it's like, do you want to come to dinner with her and Phenomenon? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. I'll watch this breakup. Oh. They do not let you watch the breakup. You do not.
No, okay. Because I couldn't do that on my second one because I was trying to romance Blazer. Her relationship with Robert in my run, I really liked because, yeah, I was interested in her at the beginning, but obviously there was phenomenon and all that, so I was like, okay, this is gonna get a little awkward. But I had a really good platonic relationship with her, especially after what happens with Chase in episode I think it's the end of episode 6. Yeah, that was a horrible cliffhanger to be left on for weeks. Yeah. Well, for a week. A few days for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for that, especially at that point in the story, I felt like I really loved the relationship just as these two platonic friends. Especially Blazer being the one that in a lot of ways pulled Robert out of this really, awful place. And that was just a really nice progression there as well. That was entirely influenced by the choices I had made, and my choosing to be cool with her, but not to be friends with her. Because I don't know if you or not to be romantic with her. I don't know if you saw. A lot of people thought Blazer would be a villain.
I did see that. I did, and I do get that because it would have been a sort of turning it on its head, and I mean, obviously with things like Amazon's The Boys, and I know it's based on a comic, right? We see the sort of, here's this really good, powerful superhero. Oh, but they're a bad guy, right? So I know there is
She's
little
for
bit
a company as well,
right? It's not Vought, it's SDN, right? So I could see where there is that. By the time we had to cut someone, I was like, all right, the person that we cut is definitely going to be the one who ends up back in the life of crime. So at that point, I was like, I don't think she's the bad guy, right? Or a bad guy, I should say.
Yeah.
Because I was like, then it'll be how many people are going to like turn on you in an 8-episode game.
Yeah.
You know, episode 2 and 3, I was like, I don't know. But when she actually goes through with the cut, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. It would be too much.
That was another thing as well in terms of just pacing. There was a lot of people when it was releasing. I was going to say airing, but when it was releasing,
it feels
a lot of people. But there was a lot of people that were concerned about Shroud. They thought Shroud was going to be one of the main cast in disguise because he wasn't being built up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't getting a lot of like development for him or introduction. But I thought in the last episode he chewed the scenery, especially like with Matt Mercer voicing him and everything. Like I thought that he was really well implemented in that last episode in terms of, you know, building him up as this kind of all-seeing, all-knowing force.
I think I will say that's the one thing that was slightly off for me, right? And maybe not off, but slightly ruined. I almost wish it wasn't Matt Mercer, not because he does anything bad in the role, right? Because he's actually phenomenal in the role. But the moment that there's the guy at the bar and the bearded man starts talking, I was like, oh, fuck, that's Shroud, right? Because his voice is just so recognizable. Yeah. So it was spoiled for me, not because the writing was bad, not because the voice acting was bad, but because I was like, I have played and watched and done so many things that Matt Mercer is in that I was like, I recognize you already. So that's like and I think that's the one thing that's difficult with voice actors, right? When they are so, people might, you know, shame on me for using this word, but Matt Mercer's prolific, right? Like, let's call it what it is. Right.
Critical role. We can talk about the voice actors, but it's the critical role guys, and then like a bunch of influencers. And that's not to talk them down. I think they're great.
They did great work, you know. But I'm just like, I recognize you too soon. Like I almost wish there would have been somebody else or some sort of modification or something that wouldn't have spoiled that for me in that moment. Because I think if you didn't know Matt Mercer's voice, that would be such a like, oh my God moment, right? This is Shroud. And I was like, oh, okay, I see it coming. And maybe they wanted people to be able to see it coming, right?
Maybe. Because I had that as well, where after that moment, I think it's after you get clocked or something like that in that scene, I turned to my partner, I was like, that's Matt Mercer. I was like, there's no way that's not Shroud, Right,
you know, and again, maybe they wanted that because then that's, you know, not too long after is when Blazer comes and saves you, and maybe the point was not necessarily to focus on the reveal of Shroud, but to see Blazer in this badass, you know, moment, because yes, it is, and maybe too many big things back to back to back would feel like the pacing is off, but I think that was something to me that I was like, damn, I almost wish I wasn't spoiled. God damn it, Matt Mercer. But again, amazing in the role, right? So not to take that away from him, just that my ears have become too fine-tuned at finding him.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair as well. I think when the guy's in like every video game, I think that's fair to have an ear for, recognizing him. So on the broader cast and the voice acting as well, who, like, I know it's a bit of a redundant question because they all are actually great. Mm-hmm. Who were some of your favorite cast members? Because, you know, for as short as this game is, I think altogether it's like 8 hours or something.
If that,
I think especially just through the gameplay, every character has just enough time to become super memorable, have their own, you know, personalities and have their own quirks and stuff, especially on the Z team. And I just think that is so, you know, I hate to say it, but it's so cool. I keep saying it's so cool, but it is so cool. It's so good. It's so well written.
Mm-hmm. No, it totally is. I mean, I think the voice that surprised me the most, and maybe it's because I know the name but know very little, was actually Charlie Moist Critical, right? I don't watch his content, right? And maybe I will like start watching some of it, and I've seen him in the memes, right? You know, there's the meme where he's like throwing his hands, like, you know, like I've seen that, right? Yeah. So I've seen that, and I watched this other podcast called Trash Taste, and he was on one episode. So that's about all I know about him, right? So I'm like, all right, I know his voice and I know he's got a big following, whatever. But the way that his voice acting made me like so attached to Sonar was unreal. Like in the next playthrough that I'm doing, I cut Sonar and it hurt. Like it hurt me to
I did
cut
the same.
Sonar. And I was like,
because I kept him on my first run. Yeah.
I was like, that means I don't get him for so many episodes. And like, I'm sitting here struggling with it. And I was like, oh, but, you know, I was like, and in the way that I ended up playing it this time around, it made sense because it's like, oh, well, he did a whole bunch of cocaine and he did this and he ran off here. And ooh, like, that's not great. You know, but I was just like, oh my God, like if you would have asked me if I was going to be attached to the bat boy that's eating mice, you know, in the kitchen, I would have been like, hell no. But something about the delivery, the voice acting was just so spot on. And it was just, he really surprised me. You know, because some of the other people, I'm like, Phenomenon, I know you're going to be great, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, Blonde Blazer, Invisigal, I know y'all are going to be great.
I will say, actually, I was really pleasantly surprised by Aaron Paul as Robert. That is it's so cool to me because, like, I love Breaking Bad, and I specifically love Jesse Pinkman. He's my favorite character in that. And Aaron Paul, like, whenever he shows up anywhere, I'm like, oh, you know, I love Aaron Paul and stuff like that. But like, the performance here is so good. I think like the way that he does that witty kind of snappy dialogue during the conversation, because he's very, you know, I get quippy, I guess. I don't know. Like there's a lot of that kind of snark kind of talk in it. And I love that. And I love the way it's implemented, but it comes off so naturally. And just him in this role was so satisfying because, you know, he doesn't show up much, but when he does, I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Every line is delivered in such a way that it's like, again, I think it's the realism of the characters where I'm like, yeah, I could totally see, you know, people like this and that wit. And I think it's also, especially in my second playthrough where I'm being a little meaner and a little rough around the edges as Robert, right? I'm like, okay, so I saw the everyday man Robert, the slightly more heroic, but still like on a even keel for the most part. Now seeing him being more rough around the edges, I'm like, the delivery is still just as good. It's not like, oh, he's good at being the good guy, but not so great at, you know, really trying to deliver the tough love. I'm like, no, he's good across the board. Right. So I think that's also a really a testament to him, because you know that there are some actors and voice actors that get typecast and they're always the same. Right. And it's always not one note, but it's always like, you're going to be the pretty princess, or you're going to be, you know, whatever it is. Whereas taking the one character and making them so multifaceted to be based on how you choose to play the game, and seeing the same voice actor excel with every line is fantastic.
Yeah, no, like there's been some kind of backlash, I think, because, you know, it has Moist Critical and Alana Pierce, who has acted before, and Jacksepticeye and stuff on the cast. There's been like some backlash of people being like, oh, hire voice actors. I'm like, okay, first of all, the Critical Role people are here, you know, like those are, I think, as voice actors get. But also, like, I think that these people are like acting, you know what I mean? Like, I've watched Moist Critical before. I know what his voice is. That's definitely his voice. But like, he's believable as Sonar, you know, and Aaron Paul, he's voice acted before. He's in BoJack Horseman and stuff. But I am amazed, as somebody, you know, like I said, who loves like the character of Jesse Pinkman so much, I'm amazed at how that just blurs away from me when I'm playing as him, as you know, Robert and stuff. And yeah, Jacksepticeye as well, playing the which is a great character, you know, like the kind of, initially I was like, oh, here we go, the Irish stereotype, but I think that he brings a lot of personality to that role, especially with the whole the dick punching thing. And especially in the playthrough I was just doing with his relationship with what is her name? Coupe.
Oh,
Coupe. I just said it
earlier.
Yeah. His relationship with Coupe is very interesting.
Yes.
And similarly to Malevola's interest, like relationship with Sonar as well. I think I love that there's little dynamics like that. There's some histories. They're all familiar with Robert as Mecha Man, and
Mm-hmm.
especially Flambe, who is another excellently performed character.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the Jacksepticeye's punch up, I remember here, and this is not like his first gaming role
No.
either, right? So it's,
No.
no one should have been surprised, but I think he really brings a very specific level of charm to it, to the point where I was convinced during my first playthrough. I was like, oh, actually, I'm going to make Punch Up my charmer. And I kept putting every time he would level up, I was like, oh no, he's my
Yes.
talker, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
so here's this 4 foot nothing burly dude who's going to be like just charming the pants off of everybody when I have to send him on very specific missions. But it was the voice acting that made me think this is the way that this character should be built, right? And obviously there are other people that may not feel that, but to me that was, oh, this is what he needs. This is, and that's all kudos to the, again, the delivery of lines and the smoothness of it, and
I actually think it's like, as an Irish person, the way they wrote Punch Up and the way he delivered Punch Up's line, especially a lot of like the kind of, Irish kind of slang and stuff.
Mhm.
I thought that was really well done. I was like, damn, like not only obviously is Jacksepticeye does this sound well, but it's written well as well.
Yeah.
And something I actually noticed from the demo, which I don't really have much, I don't really understand, but in the demo, they say he's from Cork when you
Mhm.
first get introduced to the team, but in the game he's from Galway, which are two different parts of
Right,
Ireland.
yeah.
One's on the south and one's on kind of the, I guess it would be the east. I don't know what the point of that is, but I'm curious if he said anything in an interview as to why that is, because
Oh, yeah.
I guess I don't think his accent is synonymous with either of them. It's probably more closer to Cork, which is interesting. That's just the Irish in me coming out.
I think that's a really interesting point though, right? Because I cannot tell the different dialects or the different accents in Ireland. Unfortunately, I only got to spend 3 days in Ireland in my entire life so far, and I was in Dublin, so I feel
sorry for you.
You know what? Don't feel sorry, because I gotta say that was the loveliest place I've ever been, and everybody was fantastic, right? So
Yeah.
if that's a small taste of Ireland, like, I got to go back and see more of it. So if anything, it was wonderful promotion to be like, come back, spend more time. But so to me, I can't tell those dialects apart, but I do wonder, like, was there some sort of a conversation then where it was like, maybe we should change this, or, I don't know where exactly Jacksepticeye is from, right? So
He's not from either of those.
He's
I
not
actually
from
do know
either
where
of those.
he's from,
Interesting.
but he's not from either of those. So I do feel like it probably was something in him that, like, I feel like he might have had input on that for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Because I don't know if you saw, there was the thing as well. Alana Pierce was talking about with her character Malevola,
Mhm.
where her surname is actually the surname of Alana Pierce's stepfather, I believe. So it was very
Okay.
personal, because
Mhm.
her stepfather passed away, I think, a few years
During-
back.
mhm.
Yeah, and it was a very personal thing. So I do think, and I think that's awesome that the characters, like the actors, had input into their characters and got to inject a little bit of personality into them. That's
Yeah.
not something that, I think every game allows for, especially on the AAA level. So, special, being an indie.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think there is so much of the labor of love that went into this and I think it's not just from the team at Adhoc. It was literally from everybody. Like, everybody across the board brought in such a flavor, like such a, just a something, and made it very personal. And I think that is fantastic. And I freaking love Malevola. And something that you mentioned before, the relationships between the characters, I think that also added to so much of why they felt real, right? And some of it is not always as obvious, and some of it is also, you see it when you're playing the game, depending on choices that you make. So, like, I had seen that Malevola is technically Sonar's NA sponsor, right? So Narcotics Anonymous. And that's in like some of their bio and relationship. So my first playthrough, I didn't get this. The second playthrough that I'm doing, I sent Sonar to one of the drug busts, And then he starts saying something about, he's like, oh, I'm just going to be here for a minute, with just a little bit of the cocaine. And Malevola starts saying, no, like we talked about this. And he's like, I'm going to cut back after this bump. Right. And I'm like, okay, I didn't have that interaction the first time, even though it was listed in this, relationship between them. And now I'm seeing this. So there's all these little nuancy pieces. Right. And it's the same with Punch Up and Coupe. If you cut Coupe, they finally tell you, oh, well, Punch Up and Coupe used to date, right?
Yes, yeah.
But if you don't cut them, or if you don't cut Coupe, right, then you just see these little hints of, oh, well, they're really close. Oh, how close were they, right? And it's these little nuancy things. And some of that I wonder, like, how much did you write that in, and why? And is that also personal to people? And how does that all play out? And
yeah.
Just really, but those moments and those little nuances, it's like, yes, these are real characters, even though one is, basically a tiefling from the underworld, right?
Yeah. The designs are awesome as well.
Oh my God,
I love they talked about with Malevola. At first, I remember I was saying, I was like, what is with her outfit? It's very strange. I'm not like, I get what they're going for, but it's just specifically that outfit on that kind of like, the tiefling kind of design. It's just weird. And they, in an interview, I think it was with IGN, I think the director of the game said that she was inspired by an old commercial with Cindy Crawford, where she's wearing that exact outfit. Another thing about the level, I was like, she's running around in heels, which is crazy. But
if they can do it in the new Jurassic World movie, they can do it in a video game.
Okay, I'm gonna take your word on that. But yeah, no. So like that was the inspiration for Malevola. They made her sexy demon lady, and what I love is that they didn't stop there, right? Because it would be so easy to just be like, okay, she's hot, she's a demon lady, she's Australian because she's voiced by Alana Pierce or whatever demon lady version of Australia. Whatever. But again, allowing the actors potentially to inject personality into them and allowing them to have dynamics, that run across the team. I just think it's such good writing. It's very sharp. I should probably get to this, breakdown though of each episode before we end up getting sidetracked completely. And there'll be conversations we can launch into based on these. But I guess the first decision, which I think is a bit of a tone setter for how you kind of want to handle your version of Robert, is did you throw the guy off the roof?
I did
at the
first
beginning
time.
of the game. Yeah, I think I was
threw
in
him
your
right
chat.
off the roof.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't. This is the guy. Excuse my vulgarity. This is the dick guy, right?
Yep. This is toxic with the floppy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm assuming that was censored on stream.
No,
but it wasn't censored when I played. Oh, okay.
No. All right. Just unrelated for anybody who ever streams on Twitch. Yes, you can try to put in censorship as long as you don't focus on it. Twitch is okay with it if it's part of the game. So like if you're designing your character in Cyberpunk, don't spend 10 minutes on your penis size. That will get you a nice little ban. But if it's just something that happens to be in there, as long as you say this channel is 18 plus, you're good to go. Okay. So that's what I did.
And the game is 18 plus as well, so I think it automatically flags that. Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube's a little more mad at me, but that's okay. Because I then put all the VODs on YouTube.
Yeah, I think Twitch is okay, but Mortal Kombat YouTube is not. You got to make the blood green in that. So yeah, that makes sense. So that's, I think I didn't throw him off the roof, but I don't think it changes too much. Like, I think there's one bit of dialogue later that references it, but I do think it's a good tone setter for like, okay, are you a little bit more destructive? How down bad is your version of Robert? Like, is he like screwed? Because obviously he's talking about his father. It's framed like a therapy session, but it's not. So, after that is the fight with Shroud. Did you played with QTEs on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't the first time, but I did the second time, and yeah, they're all right. Like
they're fine.
They disappear for like half the game.
They're very generous, I will say too.
Yeah.
Which I think, especially in the first chapter, I think is good, especially if it's been a while since you've played a game with like quick time events and you're like, what am I supposed to do again? But they are very generous. I will say for the most part, it doesn't seem like it makes that big of a difference whether you hit them perfectly or not. It'll just slow
You
down
do
your
get
gameplay.
you get a percentage. Oh, it
Yeah.
slows down even if you don't have them on. Weirdly, in that first fight,
Oh,
anyways,
interesting. Okay.
it does still slow down. I think they frame it as being like a cool superhero thing, but it is a little awkward.
Mhm.
Um. So yeah, no, the QTEs are kind of whack. They're a little weird. Um.
Yeah.
The bar scene with Flambe. Did you use water or alcohol?
The first time I used water, and
Mhm.
then the second time, because I've gotten that far, the second time I used alcohol.
Oh, how did that go? Because I accidentally used alcohol the second time.
So the water.
I used water. I
Oh, you used
accidentally
water?
used
Yeah,
water
yeah.
the second time. Yeah.
So, so if you use the alcohol, it actually shows you kind of how dumb or how naive Flambe actually is, because you
Oh
throw
god.
the alcohol on him and he starts to freak out, even though he has just told you that he doesn't burn and it doesn't hurt because he controls the fire and the flames like a Dragon Force song, right? But so he tells
Yeah.
tells you this, and then he starts freaking out and he runs out. And I can't remember if it's Coupe or who it is, but they make a comment, right? Because even Robert's like, didn't he just say? And they're like, yeah, it'll take him a minute to realize what it is, right? So he still runs out. You still get kicked out of the bar. It's just
Yeah.
more comedic to see. He's not the brightest bulb. You know, he may burn bright with those flames, but there's not much going on up top.
I actually missed one here as well. That I meant to put in here for the press conference. What did you do with the guy? Because I bet him up on my second time. I was expecting the game to punish me more.
The first time I beat him up, the second time I answered the question. So the beat up is fun because again, the first time I was playing through, I was playing with in my mind like a very damaged Robert, right? But if you answer the question, right, and then leave, you basically do say like when he's like, what would your father think? And, he's like, well, my father would be proud that I'm still alive, that I'm still here, right? Like, and he answers the question in a very
That's the only one I haven't
good
seen.
way. Yeah, he's like he'd be happy, not happy alive, but I think he does say like he'd be proud that I'm alive, right? And then he kind of exits after, sort of saying his piece and dropping the mic and walking out.
Yeah.
So it's not like punishing in any way. There's very few people who have answered the question based on the stats that I saw.
Yeah, I just walked away the first time I played, and then the second time I bet him up, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a little rough to watch. And then later on, they were like, the guy that got it up was like, yeah, nobody came to help me after about 3 or 4 minutes. That was weird, and it never came up again.
That's it.
Yeah, so it doesn't come up again in the full.
No, it doesn't
playthrough?
come up. I think it's moments like that though, because when you get to the end, you get to see what sort of Robert you are.
Yeah.
Right. So I got the everyday man Robert in my first playthrough because I wasn't heroic enough, right? Probably because I was beating up reporters and throwing people,
I
off
got the
building.
heroic one. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's that is where it factors in more. It's just like, okay, what sort of Robert were you? Right. And I was like, yeah, sometimes I'm grumpy, sometimes I'm good, sometimes we're just getting drunk and and laying against the mecha suit. So I think that's where it factors. But it didn't come up again as something like destructive. And I guess maybe that's because at this point, and again, this is some of my interpretation. While you are dispatching these characters, you are also sort of being rehabilitated in some ways. It's not just the suit. So I think it's also like those moments where you have to be the person behind instead of out on the field, right? I think there's some level of, we know you're hurt, we know you're upset, we know this, but we're going to help you. We're going to give you hope again, right?
Yeah, rehabilitation, like I was saying, because I think I guess it's my interpretation, but even if you play differently, I still think that that's like a core theme of the game because Robert is also, this is going to be real cheesy, but Robert is learning what it means to be a hero as well, while everybody else is, but
I mean,
Yeah,
to
that's
be a
the most
hero.
cheesy way of saying that.
No, I don't think it is, because it's like to be a hero and also to be more connected, right? Because in that, in that
Yeah.
same, when you get to episode 2, I know I'm jumping just slightly, but when he sees Chase again, right?
Mhm.
You hear that it's been years since they've seen each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he takes over as Mecha Man and he doesn't see Chase for years. It's like, so are you seeing anybody, or have you become this like sort of reclusive superhero? So then it is, for him, some of that rehabilitation is not just what does the hero do, right? But what does the human do? What keeps you human to be the
Yeah.
hero that you see yourself as being? Because you can't just be the hero just to be the hero.
Yeah, and of course, like he becomes the pep talk guy,
Mm-hmm.
and so for everybody, like it takes that looking inward to help the team like that, especially a lot of ex-villains who, if you let one of them go, slip unfortunately back into that lifestyle.
Yeah.
But the final one for episode 1 then is, did you kiss Blonde Blazer? Bleh.
The first
Did
time I
you?
did. Yeah. First time I did. Second time, I did not. The first time I was just like, it feels like the right thing to do. And she's leading in and she's touching the face. And I was just like, yeah, all right, sure. It was like, what's the worst that happens? It's awkward tomorrow. Oh, well. She leaves you on the billboard anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I didn't do it my first time, and I did my second time, but so I was trying to romance Blonde Blazer the second time, but second time I also wanted that kiss from Phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
So-
And you only do it if you've already kissed. I think you only get it if you've kissed her already, so that way you can, be on even terms. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, Phenomenon, that's an interesting way of thinking about it, but okay, cool. Sure.
Yeah. So for episode 2, the first one, I'm gonna ask, it's not like a huge decision, but did you brofist Royd while peeing?
Of course. It hurt me to not brofist him the second time.
Yeah.
And
the exact same.
the demo I brofisted, right? Because
Yeah.
the interesting thing is the demo is basically a good chunk of episode or chapter 2.
Yeah. It's all of the gameplay, I think, for
Yeah.
that chapter. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I was like, oh yeah, I brofisted him in the first time. I'm gonna do it again. Like, it's fine. He don't touch nothing. He just, he grabs his bow. He just shakes. Right?
Yeah. He's a great side character as well. I loved him. I loved the performance for him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you cover for Invisigal punching Robert?
I did the first time. The second time I did not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did actually both times. I think I forgot that was like a choice, that impacted the dialogue. But yeah, I think I covered for her twice. Is there any consequence to that? Like,
just what Blazer like says to you in conversation.
right.
It's not anything. I think it's not anything detrimental in the moment. I have found, and maybe if I remember, I'll link it in this video description. It does impact the ending that you get for Invisigal. And I think that's the other thing that some people tried to criticize, and I think the more people dive into the game and sort of see it, some of these decisions don't necessarily impact you right then and there, but it is the culmination of everything at the end, right?
Yeah.
So, covering for her gives you a few more brownie points. Not covering for her, right? I think it might be a flat 0. I'd have to go back and double check, but Blazer, makes a comment about her punching you, and Robert kind of just shrugs it off after. He's like, yeah, whatever. And it leads into him then talking about how they need tough love anyway, right? Like that's the only thing they'll understand. So it still fits in the dialogue. I think actually, regardless of whether you cover for her or not, that fits better than earlier in the episode, whether, in episode 1, you can choose to kiss Blazer or not. At the start of episode 2, when she brings you in, she's like, about last night, whatever. And I was like, well, even if I didn't kiss you, there's not really anything to talk about from last night, right? But she still brings it up, and it feels more awkward when she brings it up and you didn't kiss. So I was like, that was one part of dialogue that I was like, all right, maybe this could have been tweaked. Not a huge deal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Just weird. I'm like, what about last night?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I guess the vibes are very kind of intimate.
Yeah.
I guess, but yeah, I'm with you with that. Did you ask Blum Blazer out?
I
Then,
didn't.
you know, when
I did did I do the first time? I think I did. This second time I did not, and was trying to again, because in this one I'm playing a little bit more of like the Dick Robert. So I'm like, this time he's gonna try to play it like a little too cool, not hard to get per se. But you know, I can't think of the term right now, but it's like the I want you, but I'm gonna act like I don't want you, and like you know.
playing hard to get. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like there's
yeah.
some I hate to say slang
Playing
term.
coy, whatever.
Yeah, you know, where it's like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna ask you. I'm just gonna go do this, and Phenomenon shows up, you know, anyway. So then instead, when Phenomenon shows up, being like, "You want to go to dinner?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go to dinner," and she stands behind you, like, "What the fuck?" I'm like,
yeah,
why not?
I so that's the next one I was going to ask about. I didn't go to, especially not the first time. I didn't, you know, I declined dinner with Phenomenon and Blazer because I was convinced that Phenomenon was going to be like a villain. I was convinced that he was going to be some kind of Homelander-esque character or Omni-Man or something, and I was like, I'm gonna maybe. But obviously, I was really worried. This is probably like messed up, but I was really worried it was going to be something like he was abusing Blazer or something like that. You know, just because of, I guess, Invincible and the Boys or something. I guess that's just, you know. But I'm so glad that's not where it went, because I think it would have been a far worse off story. And I like Phenomenon as a character far more as a result of them not doing something like that. But I was concerned about that, so I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to interrupt here, but I want to be able to help later on." Yeah, so that's it for episode 2.
Yeah.
For episode 3, I just wanted first to point out, I just thought the whole thing with Sonar and Coupe, where Sonar gets locked in the basement for thinking that Coupe is going to show him her boobs. I just thought that was funny. I think the delivery in that sequence is really good as well, between the two actors. Did you throw the chair at Gollum?
I did. The first time I did not. The first time I actually told him just to get out. Right? I was like, get out. You know, this time I threw the chair. And it's funny because when you throw the chair at him and then you give him, there's like another chair and you like, you know, pull it out for him. It's like so much later. I think it's during the dispatching. He says, "Oh, I get it now." And someone's like, "You get what now?" He's like, "He was giving me a chair." Ha ha ha. And I'm like,
it's so good. Yes.
I'm like, yes, that's exactly what he was doing. He totally wasn't throwing a chair at you because he was angry.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned Prism yet. I loved Prism as well.
My God.
I loved her performance as well. I love the bit in the gameplay where somebody's like, "Oh, I'm temporarily blind," and she's like, "Bitch, you're blind forever." So good.
During the big fight later. Yes.
Yes, there's such great little quips like that throughout like the gameplay that just I have playing it again. I was just playing it here at like my desk and stuff, and just with headphones on and just laughing to myself in the corner of the room while my partner was watching TV or something. I'm just like, don't pay attention to me. I'm playing Dispatch.
No, and I love when you send her on certain missions. She really like dives into the fact that she's also this like star, right? It's like she's a villain, but she's got, you know, millions of followers here, and she plays into her star power. You know, like I know there's one dispatch where it's like someone keeps cutting in line and blah 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 blah, right? And you can send her on that one, and one of the options that you get is to show them what real star power looks like. And you only get that one if you send her like specifically on that, right? Because there are, which we haven't talked about too much, but when you are actually doing the dispatching, if you send certain characters, different options will be unlocked to you. I'm not going to say that they're always going to be auto successes, but there will be options. So it's like you need, you know, this character to do a certain thing. And she's one that there are a few times where it comes up and it cracked me up. Right? Like her talking bad about other people's music taste. Because I don't remember if it's Sonar or Flambe that she asked, like, "What are you listening to?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm listening to so-and-so." And she's like, "That bitch is whack." Right? Or whatever she says. And it's just so like...
Sonar. There's one bit where there's like I'm not sure if I'm mistaken for the one that you mentioned, but there's one bit where there's like a concert
Hmm.
and you send somebody to help or something. And I sent Sonar and he was like, oh, I like some of her music. And she's just shitting on him for that. She's
So
like, fuck you,
much.
dude. Like, yeah. Yeah, that is awesome. And I really just before I forget about the gameplay though, I will mention about the gameplay. I love that it puts you in Robert's kind of position
Hmm.
for so much of it as well, especially with those kind of dice roll sections.
Yes.
I was absolutely sitting there when I would get like, a negative dice roll, I'd be like fucking useless, fucking, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm working for this company now.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I just
really
performed
is.
badly.
It really is. And it makes you really think like, who am I sending and why am I sending them here? Right. Like,
Yeah.
what is, because you don't know what stat you'll need. This is one of the places where it very much feels like a tabletop RPG where you don't know what stat you're going to need to roll. And, it's not exactly D&D because it's not a 20 dice. Right. But there's stats and successes and what that all looks like. But it very much is like who fits this and why, right? And there are times where you will get to pick what sort of stat you want to use if they need additional like assistance. Um, it pops up and it's like there's a hand and you have to click it and then it's like here's your 2 or 3 options. What are you going to do? Hopefully you remember what stats the Z team members that you sent out are good at. It won't tell you always what stat this will be aligned with, but then you pick one and then it moves across the board so you can see if you succeed that way. But I thought that was really fun, and those are also moments that it helps you unlock different character dialogue. Right. So it also feels like, who am I sending and why? Just to hear these lines that if I don't
Yeah.
send them, I won't hear it.
Yeah, the decision making for those is tough sometimes, but
Mhm.
it's so interesting and exciting when, there is a very specific event that pops up and you do kind of have to sit there and be like, okay, first of all, who's available?
Mhm.
And second of all, who is best for the job, or, in some cases, is it going to be funny to listen
Yeah.
to, whatever
Mhm.
happens?
Some are
Um,
some are very obvious, or okay, some I think are very obvious, some not so much. Like
yeah,
there's a cult one. I can't remember if it might be episode 3 actually.
I think it is episode 3. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, well, obviously if there's a cult of people, like I'm sending Malevola, right? Like you're a
Yeah.
strange cult of Chad. And it's like, well, let me send her. And she has very specific dialogue where she gets there and she says, like, oh, cultists of this. Yeah, I know how to deal with them. Like, is so familiar with it. Like, whatever. And then there is an option that comes up specifically for her. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
is fantastic. I love
She
this.
says something about them previously worshiping her or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah. But the one thing I think with the gameplay that kind of frustrated me is I think by the end they tried to implement a few too many mechanics into that. Specifically that one where it's like, okay, if you send people with this amount of stats, it'll like auto
It'll
fail.
auto
I
fail.
thought
Mm-hmm.
like I get that friction is good in a game like this, and I get that there are cases where it does feel a little too simple at
Mm-hmm.
times. But I do feel like that was one case where I was like, okay, you guys are just trying to make this miserable for me, especially because I think it's in the last 2 episodes they introduced that, which are the last episode I thought was quite difficult because I wasn't able to beat Coupe.
I
So I
just
think
beat
that
her.
was, yeah,
You
I
know what?
wasn't able to get her.
That's the if you beat her, I think that's what triggers you being able to bring her back on the
That's what
team.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wasn't able to do that. So I wasn't able to bring her back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was
I
frustrating
lucked
because
out.
yeah, I thought that the game was working against me so hard there, but like I said, friction is good. I get it. I
Hmm.
just not necessarily sure that was the right way to do it. Um,
I almost feel like that's one of those things where it's like, and I'm sure this would be very difficult to implement because there's so many different paths and everything in this game to begin with. That would almost be something that it's like, could it scale to how well you've done on dispatches, right? Like, because
yeah,
for me, I really enjoyed it, but I was like, I feel really good about most of my dispatches, right? Like, I had,
yeah,
I was like, I'm good at this. Like, I'm very few times am I failing. I'm feeling good. So like the
mm,
additional component was helpful, or what the additional component was like, okay, now here's like the next level of a challenge, right? But in talking with some other friends, not just people that were like on Twitch, they were like, yeah, I had a really hard time with the dispatching. So by the time they added this extra element, like I was struggling even more than I already was, right? So I'm like,
Right.
okay, if there was a scale, right, like you have to hit X many successes or, whatever, then maybe incorporating like, all right, now you're too good, so we need to humble you a little bit, right? Especially if then the final chapter you're fighting against something else to add, right? But I do see how for some people it's like that's just too much, right? Like stop, slow down.
I think as well that like the progression kind of tapped out for me by like episode 4 or something, or maybe episode 5, to where the progression you get after you complete a day, and it's the amount of calls succeeded, calls failed. I tapped out on that like really early, so it felt kind of frustrating that they had implemented this thing to add friction so late that was so cruel in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Given that it felt like I had kind of walked through the game a little bit otherwise, other than obviously, having failed calls and
Yeah.
things not work out at certain times.
Well, that's also because sometimes the thing we didn't talk too much about with this episode is the sabotaging that's happening between them.
Yeah, well, I was going to get to that next. Yeah, with having to coupe or sonar, and yeah, there's some stuff I think interestingly that falls out from that in gameplay for the next few episodes as well. But yeah, which one did you? I think we said, but yeah,
Yeah, the first time I cut coupe, and it was interesting because I cut coupe and she had been the one that I sent the most in that episode, but I didn't have it in me to cut sonar.
yeah. For some reason, Prism was always the one I sent the most. I guess both, even on my second playthrough, I think Punch Up had a few more times on the second one, but all the time it was Prism that was the most for me. I guess whatever way I had built her out made her kind of a jack of all trades. But yeah, no, I cut Coupe as well. And yeah, it was because obviously I didn't know that there was the potential to get her back, but I felt awful about it because the game does make it very clear, like, yeah, you're sending her back to kind of where you kind of got her from, which was kind of this criminal underworld, probably working for Shroud, right? I do love her presence in the final episode, though, like as a villain. I think that she's like really annoying in the way that she like, gets involved in the fight. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, well, you shouldn't have fired me. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I don't make up the corporate ladder here.
Right, like if it was up to me, I would have cut nobody. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, she's a very, very good villain when you get to see that side of her.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see how that is for Sonar as well, because I think that like his presence would be good in the villain's position. I'd imagine that Moist Critical probably delivers in that role quite well. Yeah,
I've seen a little bit of it. I haven't gotten far enough to see him as the full villain. I think because once I cut him, I was sad. It's just like, oh, like I can't believe I've done this to you, my poor baby. But I've seen a little bit through other people's streaming, and he does do a good job. The little bit that I've seen, because some of the I saw and I was like, oh wait, I kind of want to go back and like I do want to see this when my heart is ready to see him as a bad guy.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. I grew so attached to him. He felt like, especially because the way that they build out Z Team on your first playthrough is so strong, or at least it can be so strong. Like I felt so attached to each of those characters by the end. There's a very much a found family element to it.
100%.
But I guess likewise with episode 4, who did you add then? Did you add Waterboy or Phenomenon?
I added Waterboy.
I added Waterboy as well. I had a huge soft spot for Waterboy.
I was like, we can fix him. It's fine.
Yeah, no, he's great. I love how awkward he is. I love that's his performance is by Joel Haver or Haver, who's a comedian who's been on things like he was on Smiling Friends for an episode, but he has great YouTube videos that are like rotoscope animation. I loved his voice acting. He worked really well for that awkward kind of stuttering character, and he was really likable. But I have to say, I did play a little bit with Phenomenon on the team, and I thought that was so funny him being on the team and just being like everybody not liking him, him being totally depressed, him actually stopping in the middle of the shift just because his status is depressed.
Yep.
It was so funny.
Yep.
It's also hilarious to me that he looks like the main character from Disco Elysium, who is also depressed. So yeah, I like both of these characters a lot.
I did too, and I think I was a little bit back and forth on it, but then I was like, I'm gonna bring Waterboy, and part of my thought process with also bringing Waterboy was I was like, in a previous episode, Flambe just ran off and set a building on fire, and we don't really know why. It was just like, Flambe, you're going off track, and Flambe is like, no, I'm not doing anything, and then suddenly there's a building on fire, and Robert's like, did you do that? And Flambe's like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I was like, what takes out fire? Water. You know what, Waterboy, you're going to be the balance that this team needs.
You got a great payoff for that at the end then, because his and Flambe's team up at the end is awesome. Mm-hmm. It's really cool, really satisfying.
Yeah, they have a good synergy, because that's the other thing with some of the gameplay, the synergy that you get with the characters. Right?
Yes, yeah.
And it does mean sending characters on missions together, and sometimes you can only send one character. But there are some where you can send even up to 4 characters, and building out those synergies really make the difference with some of your successes. And each Z team member has a different ability or power. I'm going to stick with ability, because sometimes Waterboy sending himself on missions is not always the best, but that is his ability. But so you have that too, and I think that adds to the level of complexity with the actual dispatching. But it also adds to the character involvement and how much you care about the characters, because you just hear them say these things and see their relationships grow. And it's so great. It's so great.
Yeah, speaking of which, actually, I think it was in the previous episode, there's the Fight Club with I think Punch Up nominates himself to go for that. But I found really interesting with that is that if you send him with Coupe, who I do think he asks for as well, you get some more details on their history that they used to kind of team up previously. And, we've already talked about them being in a previous relationship, but I do love that that's how you find that out, is that little kind of arc with the Fight Club. And just going back to what you're saying about the synergies, because those are 2 characters that have a synergy. And then if you fire Coupe, you lose that synergy. Which makes that decision even more important, not just from a narrative front, but also from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
And I also made sure when I was playing again to not put too much, not to stat out Sonar too much as well, because it's kind of the RPG thing where it's like, okay, if this party member goes away, you don't want to put too much, you don't want to put too much, work into them. But yeah, so I think then for this one, the big one in a lot of ways, the big choice for a lot of people is dinner with Blonde Blazer or movie with Vizzy.
I went to the movies with Vizzy. I did.
And
my next playthrough,
my first time.
Yeah, my next playthrough, I'll go to dinner. But I was like, I'm going to, because I also was like something about, and maybe this is, just me sort of self-inserting, because I wasn't fully sure about how far I'd take the relationship with Invisigal at this point still, right? But I was like, something about dinner is a lot more intimate to me, because you do have to actually sit and speak to somebody at dinner, right? Or it's just a really kind of awkward, quiet dinner where you're just eating, happening to be at the same table. Whereas a movie, right? I'm like, you're at the movie. Yes, you can share snacks, and yes, you can do this, but it feels like something friends could still do, and watch a movie together, walk out, talk about the movie and whatever. And you don't necessarily have to get into deeper conversation, whereas dinner feels like a place where deeper conversations are more bound to happen. Whereas a movie, don't be that person talking through the whole movie, right? And then talk about the movie afterwards when you get out. So I was like, this feels more even keel. I was like, all right, let's do this.
I think the game makes it quite obvious, though, that it is a romantic choice, because that whole episode, there's obviously it starts with sexual tension, and then there's sexual tension building throughout the whole thing. So yeah, that's when I think the game makes a conscious choice to kind of
Put you in
really
a
go in on
direction.
the
Mm-hmm.
and go in on the romance mechanics, because I did see like one or two people, very like literally one or two people, say that like they popped off after that point. They just stopped playing because they were like, oh, it's just a dating sim now. I'm like, no, it's not. Nobody said that about Batman when you could choose between
Right.
like Selena Kyle and Vicky Vale. But yeah, no, I like that though, because again, it makes you more invested in the characters,
Mm-hmm.
and also this game it's a horny game. It's a very horny game
Yeah,
as well.
but and you know
Yeah.
what? It grounds but I think it also grounds the characters, like, because again, at the end of the day, Robert is just a man, right? Like,
Yeah.
he was just a man who happened to have a really expensive suit, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's
He's
what he
not Mecha.
was.
He's man. He's just
Right.
man.
Right. He's just man. And like, guess what?
Yeah.
Like, especially as we're talking about, this sort of rehabilitation of Robert as a person, right? He is now going to want to find and be part of more human things. And some of that is
Yes.
human connection, right?
Yeah.
So, of course,
And you're saying that
now,
he's like isolated at the beginning of the game
right,
as
right,
well.
right.
Yeah.
Look at that living space that he's in, right? Like, he's
Yeah.
very isolated. And
He does have
now
beef.
he does have. Okay. This is
Yeah.
such an unserious question. I also love that your shirt says 4 animals as we're talking about beef, right?
Oh well, yeah. This is like a PETA.
I just love it, right? It's like as
Yeah.
we bring up beef. What? Okay, so I went through the whole game thinking that beef was just a very fat corgi.
Yes, so did my partner. I was adamant that he was not.
And then I found out beef is a chihuahua.
Yes. So I live with a Chihuahua, and I was like, that is her face, but on a fat fucking dog.
I was like, ain't no way. I was like, I have not been around a ton of Chihuahuas. However, any Chihuahua that I've seen out in the wild has never been that loving and never been that lovable to just like be in an office of people and not be like yipping and yapping at everybody and trying to bite their heels. I'm like, ain't no way this is a Chihuahua. And then it's like, it's a Chihuahua. I was like, you know what? That's the fakest part of the game.
He's too fat to be like that. And
Like,
I say
fake.
this as somebody who loves beef, but like he's too fat to. He still has a lot of energy. You see him like
Mhm.
kicking around, but he's too fat to sit up.
I was just like, no. in my head canon, right, which means absolutely nothing, but in my head canon, it's still a really fat corgi.
I was adamant, and I sent her that video. I was like, see, see, I was right.
Beef is the real star of the game. I know we've talked about everybody else, but beef.
I love beef. When we'll get to it, but at the end of episode 8 with Shroud, I was prepared to just uninstall the game. I was like, if anything happens to this fucking dog, I am refunding this game on Steam.
I will riot.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna pick it outside the Adhoc studio.
I think I literally said on
Justice for beef.
I think I said on stream, I was like, if anything happens to beef, I was like, I will personally go after Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
I was like, I know he's just playing a role, but I will go after him.
Yeah, it's like when everybody, dumb people, really hated Laura Bailey after The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah. Obviously, no hate to Matt.
ironically.
Yeah, no hate towards Matt Mercer, right? Like, obviously I was saying it very tongue in cheek, but those are like the moments I was thinking of and being like, I'm gonna go after him, right? Like,
To be fair, it would be justified if it was over beef. I knew at some point we were gonna get distracted talking about beef. I
we
should have
made it about
brought him up
halfway.
earlier. Yeah, no, I
That's
think
pretty
it's
solid.
actually really impressive. Yeah. Let me see. So, God, where were we? Episode 5.
Episode 5. Yep, we're moving to episode 5.
Did you reveal that you were Mecha Man?
I did. And I was like, I went back and forth, like, do I do this? And then I was like, you know what? I think building that level of trust, and again, for me, the rehabilitation of Robert and that connection, and I was like, how do we break down this wall? Right? And I was like, the reveal. And it paid off in seeing Gollum then step in when Flambe is ready to take you out. Because again, Robert's just a man, right? That fire is going to hurt. and
He is man.
right, and Gollum stepping in and protecting you. I was like, this is the relationships and the, camaraderie that Robert had missed and was missing for so long. 'Cause the few times that he talks about his dad, he does say like he barely knew him and he barely this, right? So he never had that same level of connection with anybody that he could be real and deep with. And now we're seeing that there is a cast of misfits that are taking him in. And that was like really, really like just, it drove the point home. And I was like, yes, this is a rehab story for him too. And it's working.
Yeah. That's excellent, and it's excellently put. You should review video games. You should review video games.
I've thought about it,
Social
but I don't know.
Has anyone ever told you? Yeah, no, that's perfectly put. But so, yeah, I also told everybody that I was Mecha Man, and obviously Flambe does not like hearing that for reasons that we find out later, or it's, I don't know if I'd say somewhat justified, but like I get it, and. Yes, but that is the big team building moment.
Yeah.
I think. Obviously, people's reactions aren't immediately strong. Like they're not immediately warm about it. But I think that ultimately it is the. I haven't seen the other outcomes. I do think ultimately it is probably the right outcome in that situation, though, in terms of bringing everybody together. Because at that point, I think I talked to my partner about this. I was like, I don't want to have any more secrets with them.
Right.
I don't want to. I don't want to be hiding anything. I think that we're already so close, especially because it comes after the bar fight scene, which is an excellent scene.
Yes.
Just super, super good. And a great use of licensed music, which I guess we'll talk about more in the next episode. But yeah, like I think that is one of the most important choices in the whole game. And then there's the Blonde Blazer and Vizzy date outcomes. How did kind of those go for you?
I'm trying to remember because I feel like they were just so like whatever in some ways, like because I think at that point, even though I went to the movies with Invisigal and it was like, okay, yeah, like they're on good footing, it didn't feel like anything super super important. And I think it's only because it gets so overshadowed by the bar fight and the bonding with the team, right? So it feels very secondary. I think Blazer makes a comment about it very briefly and it's like, yeah, whatever. But at that point, like I wasn't super close with Blazer anyway. It was very much like you're sort of my boss and I'm here. So we need some distance. Because it's really the fight and a few quick time events in the fight and some of the quips in the fight that really stick out to me from that episode, because that's where we hear Prism with the "what you mean temporarily, bitch?" Like, those are the moments where we see that, and we see, Punch Up, doing his trademark dick punching, and we see all these things that everybody's having a good time, and and I think poor Gollum's outside with his drinks and drinks are just being passed.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt bad for Gollum.
I was like, oh, he's missing the good stuff.
So I think that the outcome of those dates is actually, they're a little kind of coy with it in episode 5. I think in the next episode and the one after especially
is where it really
the
kicks
outcomes
in.
More become apparent. So for episode 6 there's the the kind of housewarming party at Robert's. Who did you dance with?
I danced with Vizzy.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think at that point after the date and stuff, it's like you're
okay.
kind of locked in. Yeah. I think that it's really cool. The use of licensed music in the scene is really good. I don't know if you saw the artist behind this song said that the game's use of it and the popularity it gained from the game using it actually resulted in the first time they were able to get paid for their music.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was awesome because it's a good song and it's like really popular now on things like TikTok and stuff. And, the fandom again for this game is massive now. So I thought that was really nice to see.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic for them because the music throughout the whole thing is really, really good. And we haven't talked a little bit about the music because I know the one who plays Prism, Thought Squad is
Hot
maybe
Squad.
right.
Yeah, that's her name, yeah. Or at least her stage name, yeah.
Yeah, that's the stage name. Does a lot of music for it as well. So it's like
Yeah.
you're having these moments, and I'll be honest, I didn't realize that it was the same person who was playing Prism who put in a lot of the music until when I moved a VOD over to YouTube. YouTube was like, "Yo, you have copyrighted music
Oh,
in this, right?" And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't make money on YouTube, so leave it
yeah.
in." I was like, "Leave it in." But so I was like, "Oh, okay." But the music really fits the scenes every time.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah,
not a
no.
song that feels out of place, and kudos
Yeah.
to them for that.
And I think it really adds to the like TV show kind of prestige TV feeling of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that like the credits music a lot of the time is like licensed music, and I don't
Yeah.
always love that stuff, but I didn't know any of the licensed music as well, so that was also cool. So it didn't feel like it was kind of, pulling me out, or it felt like
Mm-hmm.
it was adding to the feel of the game, or
Yeah.
the game as a show in a lot of ways.
Especially as
Um,
speaking of it being as a show, I have to ask, how many times did you forget to make choices because you were just like watching it and sort of forgetting that it was a game?
I didn't miss any choices on my first go, but my second one, I actually, because I was playing it on my Steam Deck while there were like other things going on, I actually would like look up and I go, oh shit, yeah, because they don't do the Telltale thing where characters just kind of sit there and wait for you to respond. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have the thing where they're like, Clementine,
Yeah, yeah,
hello,
yeah.
like. Instead, it's all so natural feeling, and the dialogue flows so well because you're making the choice as it's lining up.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in the technical way, it's probably lining up the next video to play. But it flows so naturally.
Yeah, I missed at least one. I thought I missed the second one, but I might have got it in just in time. But there's a moment, I think it was during the first chapter, maybe the second chapter, where I was streaming it and I like was just sort of watching it and talking about it. And I was like, oh, there was a choice on screen that I was,
Yeah,
oops.
yeah,
But it's just so smooth, right? But again, that so well done TV, feel. Not necessarily a sitcom, but very much like, yes, and like you said, the music adds to it, right? The character development, I think, adds to it. The smoothness of the animation, right? You could put that, if you put that on like TV or something, you'd be like, oh, it's probably the same people who did Invincible. Cool, I'm gonna turn it on, right? Because it has that very same style. And I think that's also why my brain was a little tricked into like, you're just watching something. Oh no, wait, you're not actively watching something, even though you've watched things like
well,
this.
this is completely anecdotally, but like you mentioned Invincible. As somebody who loves Invincible, both the comic and the show, I'd actually say it's a lot harder to pay attention to this game as a video
Then
game because the animation is actually a lot better than Invincible's. And I defend Invincible's animation, but yeah, the animation in this is so good. It's so well made. I did read somewhere that they are, so I know they're doing a Critical Role game next. But they are actually working on getting this to be like a TV show, and I have to assume that in order for that to work, it has to not be this cast of characters or
Mhm.
some kind of spin-off, maybe about one of the characters or something, because
Yeah. Well,
that would be hard.
initially it was supposed to be a TV show.
Oh,
And because of the pandemic, that didn't pan out. So
right. What?
then they went back to what they know and do well, obviously, because these are four people from Telltale in its
Yeah.
heyday, let's say.
Also, Ubisoft, I think I read.
Yeah, some people that had worked. Yeah, because after like Telltale, some of them went to Ubisoft, some of them went to a few
Mm,
other spaces, and then collectively came back to
yeah.
form Adhoc. But yeah, like when you go down the history, it's like, oh, this was going to be a TV show, and then things were starting to line up, and they said on a podcast where they alluded to the potential for a season two, where they're like, well, now we have to think about it, right? They
Yes.
did say that they would not, at the end of the day, really have been able to do a TV show in a way that would have fully worked. So it was sort of a blessing that all
Yeah.
happened that way. They're like, we would have run out of money, and I mean, to some extent, they still did run out of funding in everything that they were doing. right? And then Critical Role steps in and, helps with all
Yeah.
that. And now we have the Critical Role game that's going to be next. So it's like, yeah, they were very ambitious.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Critical Role stepped in because I think as ambitious as they were, it worked, right? Like
Yeah.
this is what I feel like is just a home run. They did it. It's wonderful. I have said this multiple times. I'm like, this is now my favorite thing that Critical Role has ever done, which is just funding this game.
I'm not. I guess it's mine as well because I'm actually not as familiar with Critical Role. Like I know all the people in Critical Role because I play video games. Of course, I know them. But also, like I love Persona, and like half that cast is in Persona.
Yep.
Just Persona alone. But yeah, I don't know much about Critical Role. I'm definitely going to give whatever this next game is a shot. But
oh yeah, I watched the Amazon Vox Machina.
Oh yes,
and I'll watch Mighty Nine. I have a really hard time listening to D&D podcast half the time because I'm like, I'm jealous and I would love to just do a D&D podcast myself and I would just play D&D. And then the other half time is just like when I'm listening to things, sometimes I'm also doing 5 other things. So I come back and I'm like, wait, how did these characters get here? Like, why are they so beat up? What happened? So yeah, I just end up doing like, I'll watch Vox Machina, I'll watch Mighty Nine. Lots of credit to all the people that are doing it. And I know they're fantastic in the clips that I've seen. I just have a really hard time with like a 4-hour D&D podcast every week.
That's fair, yeah. Anyways, we should get back to this because we're going on quite a while now. The end of episode 6, Chase, cliffhanger. Those are the words I have written down. So obviously Invisigal goes to we didn't even talk about the astral pulse or anything like that, but basically the inciting incident in the game is that there's this thing that powers Robert's suit called the astral pulse that I guess gets stolen by Shroud at the beginning, and that's how Robert loses his ability to become Mecha Man and takes up working at SDN. And Invisigal, partially because of a history we later learn, with Shroud and with his kind of group, takes it upon herself to go and try to retrieve the astral pulse, which is incredibly dangerous.
Did you support her in doing that, or did you not want her to go?
No, but I did the hacking mini games and stuff.
Yeah. I said, let's do it. I told her, let's go. Let's do it now. And everyone was like, are you crazy?
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. Huh. I didn't do that. I thought that it was a thing where it's like, okay, we can regroup as a team. We can work on this together, but let's not any of us individually kind of take this into our own hands.
Yeah, I supported her when she was like, we have to go now. I was like, yeah, we got to go now. Let's do it. Again, I was playing a sort of damaged Robert, right? And while he is still healing, right? And there is that rehab piece, I was like, he still wants to get back in the suit. So, it's like, here's this opportunity, like, yes, we should do this now. So that was like how I like played it through.
I was actually curious as to whether they were going to give us an option to like not want to become Mecha Man again, like to stay in that position, but there isn't, because I was kind of keeping an eye out for that the second time I played. At least I'm not aware of if there was an option to just like, I think that's a thing, because Robert is a fleshed out, like he is a character. You can influence him, but he does have these kind of canon elements to him. Like, like there's a reason I keep using the phrase like your Robert or my Robert, like, because he is still a defined character.
Yes.
So Chase, obviously, if there's this big thing where if he uses his power again, it could kill him because he rapidly ages every time he uses it. And the cliffhanger is him going to save Invisigal and then entering a coma, I guess is
I mean, and when you end the episode, you don't even really know because he collapses, right?
Oh yeah.
And
they knew what they were doing.
They knew, because it's like he collapses and you don't know what happened to him until you start. I really, like when I started the next episode, right, and you had to wait the week, I was fully expecting that we were going to start at a funeral. Like, and I was like not, like I was not ready for it, but I was trying to be like, oh, we're going to be like at a funeral scene,
Yeah.
or we're gonna have some like flashback, and then we're gonna be at the funeral. Like I was really expecting the worst.
Yeah, no, I I wouldn't say I expected the same, but that would have broke me. It would have really upset me because I love Chase's character. He's played by Jeffrey Wright,
Yes.
who's like an Oscar-nominated actor
Mm-hmm.
who's been in things like The Last of Us and the Batman. But his voice acting. I know I keep saying this. I sound like such a broken record. His voice acting is so good. It's so funny. He's
Mm-hmm.
so quippy and just. Like, this is a game well written. What can I say?
Yeah, yeah. And the
Yeah,
voice acting is 10 out of 10. Whatever you think, I think
yeah,
whatever you think of the game, if you're looking at the voice acting alone, 10 out of 10.
yeah. And the next episode opening with, I think it's the next episode that opens with the flashback between him and Robert,
Mm-hmm.
where it really hones into you that Chase is actually not that old. He's not even 40, I think,
Yeah, he
when the game
does say
starts.
it. There's one he says it, I think, in
He
episode
says
2
it
or
at one
3.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he says it at one point, but it's very quick, right? That it's
yeah,
like if you're looking at other stuff or, like not fully paying attention. And it's easy to forget, obviously, in the weekly release.
yeah,
Yeah, he's 38 looking like 78, right? Like,
yeah,
they
yeah.
make the reference to him being Black Einstein. Right?
Yes, which is hilarious because I think that's what everybody thought the first time they saw his design. I thought that when I saw the when I
Yep.
played the demo. Yeah.
Yep.
I
No,
was
the
like,
the
fucking
flashback is the flashback
yeah,
is so
a
it's so
flashback.
sweet, right? And
Mhm.
it's you see the older brother sort of relationship between the two of them, right? You see, it's like I'll get you whatever you want from the store, right? And you even see Chase be uh, not a bad guy, right? But he's like, "How'd you get the beer?" He's like, "I stole it. What do you think?" Right? But it's like,
Yeah,
it's this very teen rebellion if you choose the beer, right? But it's this very
I
teen
did.
rebellious nature. So did I.
Yeah.
And but it's fun because I think when you meet Chase as this older character, right? And especially the way he talks about Invisigal, it's like she's bad news, she's this, blah blah blah, right? Don't get close to her. I know, I see this, right? She's gonna turn on you, so on. Right? He's saying all these things, right? Very defensive of Robert, right?
Yeah.
And it's like
Protective of him. Yeah.
very, yeah, very protective, and it's like like why, are you so protective? And then you see it's like, oh, it's not just that they knew each other, like you get to really see this bond that they had, and the way that they were so connected, and it's like, okay, this makes a lot of sense, which is also why I was like, great, he's gonna die, like we're seeing all, like this is his death flag right here.
No, and I thought as well. I was like, okay, this is like a Telltale game. Somebody has to die.
Hmm.
But I also thought as well, I was like, okay, in the like weighing the pros and the cons of him dying, it's like, oh, in the narrative, it makes sense for him to die here because it's gonna create a wedge between Robert and
Hmm.
Invisigal, and it's gonna move Robert's character in this direction. Ultimately, I don't really mind that they didn't kill him off,
Hmm.
but I still think like it served the purpose in the narrative that it needed to. So I don't really mind that they didn't do it. Part of me, I guess this is just through narratives doing this in general, is kind of like, oh, but if they had, but it's not necessary, I suppose.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not necessary. I think it, the point that I think it also really, really served too, for me, and this is a little bit spoilery into episode 8, is by not killing him and saving him in the way that they did, they
Hmm.
also give Blonde Blazer, at that point known as Mandy, like
Yeah,
exactly what she wants. She wants to be seen as Mandy, right? And now
yeah,
that she has passed on this amulet, that you
yes,
apparently only learn about the amulet if you've gone to dinner with her and she reveals it to you
yeah.
there, right? So of course, because I didn't go to dinner with her, I didn't know.
Well, she says it. She says it like, but after you see Chase with it.
Yeah,
She
right
says like,
after.
"Oh
So
yeah, the amulet gives me my powers."
she apparently, if you go to dinner with her, she reveals this. So you could learn
Mhm.
about this earlier, right? But because I didn't go to dinner with her, I didn't learn about it earlier,
Yeah.
right? So that to me was like, oh my God. And, someone in my chat was like, oh yeah, she didn't tell you yet because you didn't go to dinner with her. Ha ha ha. And I was like, well, whatever. Chase is still alive and she gets to be just Mandy, who she wants to be, and like
Yeah.
all of this. So narratively they wove it in a way that I was like, I'm not upset that you saved him just to save him because it serves such a bigger purpose for these other characters.
You're right. Yeah, you're definitely right on that, especially because at this point in the narrative is when I really started to feel that Blazer and Robert's relationship in kind of a platonic way was really nice and really well handled. At least on my end, as choosing not to romance her, but still staying on good terms with her.
Yeah.
Because she still had a lot of agency in the narrative, even if she wasn't a romantic interest, and she supported Robert, like in the following scene where he's in the hospital with Chase and stuff, or whatever it is. I think it's still is it still in the SDN building?
It seems like it is, and I guess it makes sense that it would be in the SDN building, right? Because you are trying to protect their identities, right?
Yeah.
So if you take them to a regular hospital like, so what happened to them? Well, they use their superpowers to run really fast. It'd be pretty easy to be like, oh, this must be Trackstar. Oh my God, right? So the way it appeared that it was still SDN building or very close to and affiliated with it.
I guess your characters get injured during gameplay as well, and then they return to the SDN building. So I guess there's a little bit of Ludo narrative supporting that. But yeah, so for episode 7, did you help Gollum? I'm actually a little foggy on what this is in relation to. But I wrote it down.
Trying to remember, did I help him? Yes, I would have helped him because that's my boy.
Well, I think I probably did as well.
At that point in the narrative, I'm like, that's my boy. Like, when there's a scene in one of the earlier episodes where he knocks into you and you can yell at him, be like, watch where you're going, right? So I did, instead of just like taking it and walking by. And then, I kicked him out during the team meeting before somebody gets cut. But then I felt like there was this really deep level of respect between the two of us, especially when he steps in for Flambe. So, he is one of those that it's like, all right, you're in distress. Like we may not be the best of friends, but it feels very ride or die with the level of respect that we have for each other. Like I'm stepping in.
Yeah.
Because
Gollum.
Yeah, Gollum and Sonar, just my boys.
Yeah. I was the same. I actually ignored Gollum initially when he kind of like brushes past you and stuff. But after that, I was like, apart from throwing a chair at him, I was like supportive of him. I actually cannot remember for the life of me what this is in relation for though. So did you want to cut? Did you want to cut Invisigo?
I said we were not gonna cut her.
Yeah, I was standing by her pretty hard at that point.
Yeah, I'm like, we're not going to cut her. She, especially after you give this whole like Phoenix speech and you do all this stuff, and I was like, no, like we're not cutting her. Like we stick together, like through good. He goes on another one of his pep talks, but I was like, yeah, no, we do this together, or basically not at all, right? And we have to pick each other up. Like when someone, I think he even says, like when someone falls, we pick each other up. And that was the perspective that I went with. The team was not happy about that.
No, they weren't on my run either.
But that's what I did.
Yeah. Did you lean into Invisigal's kiss?
At that point, absolutely.
Yeah, same.
Like if you've gone that far with Invisigal, like you leaning in.
Yeah. And did you forgive Invisigal when she revealed she worked for Shroud?
I did.
I think I put her on ice a little bit. I think I said I needed time to process it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Ultimately forgave her, but in this moment, I think I said I needed time to process it. And then the next episode, I didn't untie her, which is actually the first question I have for episode 8. I didn't untie her immediately. I was still a little distrusting there just because I felt like it would be in character for Robert. I didn't really believe that, like, I still believe that she could be like redeemed, but I was like, okay, we can get to that. But I feel like Robert wouldn't immediately ride or die, because that was like a big reveal that she had worked for Shroud, and I think she was the exact person that took the astral pulse.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, put the bomb. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did say I forgive you, right? And for me and my sort of interpretation of it was he's forgiving her because now he is getting to see just a different viewpoint of life and different connections. And honestly, like had the mech not blown up, right? And had he gotten away and all this other stuff, right? He would have never had the chance to experience this, right? So
Yeah.
it's like I, I may not forget it, right? But I will forgive you because of everything else that it has brought me. It has brought me this found family, right? It has brought me an opportunity to feel things again that, based on the life that he was living that we see, I don't think he was feeling those, right? He talks about how he was in so much debt and that's all that he was doing. So it's like, you're probably not really going out. You don't even have a couch. You don't even have this. So it literally truly is just you and this machine. And now your worldview has opened up so much. Yes, it's because of this detrimental moment, but that has brought so many more beautiful things to life and brought color to life in a different way that I was like, I feel like I can't hold that against her because of what else has come of it.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. I feel like in a lot of ways we didn't make the exact same choices, but we kind of had the same kind of paths in a lot of ways, or at least like thinking in a lot of ways with them.
And I did let her
I
go
guess.
right away. Yeah. I
Oh, you
untied her.
untied her? Yeah. All right. Well, did you let her put the guy's dick away, or did you
She
do that?
tells you to do it, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. And I think, yeah,
Yeah.
she did. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not touching it. I'm like, you
Yeah.
can stay there for all I care.
I was like, no, we're still on ice. I'm not touching a guy's dick for you.
I was like, no, 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 no. I forgave
Yeah.
you. Again, I didn't forget. I forgave you, but listen, I'm walking away. If it's still hanging out there, oh well.
Sorry, I just for a moment I just keep thinking about the possibility of some of the other writers and stuff listening to this without having the context for Dispatch, and listening to me ask, "Did you put that guy's dick away?" and going, "Huh?" That's just keeps popping into my head every time I ask a question like that.
I hope they do. Just out of context.
No, because that is much like in this game, that is a HR violation.
This game, half the game is HR violations. The game, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, the HR department is non-existent in SDN. So I've already asked this, but like we know, did Coupe or Sonar rejoin your team? You said Coupe did rejoin your team.
She did. It was very close because the way that it seemingly works is you have the dispatch moments where you're sending the team out, but then Coupe is also ruining things in the city, and you do have to take time to go up against her. And you have to balance out all of the calls that are happening in addition to dealing with her, and you have to save the city and stop her. I think I was one away from losing the city, right? It was like, I got to a point where it was like 1-1, and thankfully took care of her just before like losing the city. So when we get towards the end, right, we're able to bring her back. And it's like, I don't know if it's like a humbling thing or whatever. It's like, but we see that it was so easy for you to fall. And this I think is in some ways, sort of similar to, addiction and everything. It's like, yes, if you, don't have people there that care and support you, and if you're not ready for it, obviously, because there is an element of somebody has to be ready, right? It is too easy for you to fall back, right? And that is exactly what she did, right? She fell back into well-known patterns, things that she was good at, and I think to some extent, maybe even in a weird way felt proud of that she was good at these things. And it's like, if that's the only thing that you think you're good at, yeah, it's too easy to fall back, right? And and again with my Robert having killed Shroud and now knowing what that feels like, right? And he says, I don't know how I feel. Like he's having a hard time sitting with it even though he's done it, right? It was really great to then be able to bring Coupe back to the team, because it's like, you were an assassin, you killed people. I have this little taste of what it was, and I don't enjoy it. And I know that that doesn't make me an inherently bad person, right? So
Yeah.
we could still work with this. We can move forward as long as you're willing to. And she, she doesn't spit in your face. She doesn't, because obviously someone who's bad to the core would turn it away or whatever. And she comes back, and even when she comes back, she looks, she looks humbled. She looks, happy to be given this other chance, right? She looks like this is like she has now seen this really is where she should be and where she should put her skills.
Yeah. No, that sounds really great. That sounds like a really great outcome for like her kind of arc throughout it. For me, I didn't kill Shroud even though he took beef. Because I wanted it. I felt like at that point I would have been majorly hypocritical for at least the Robert I had built with the relationship with Invisigal to show that like to kill somebody and also to deprive somebody of an opportunity of like rehabilitation. I did consider it for a minute. I was like, okay, let's just kill this guy, get this over with, get him out of here. But I also had thought like throughout the game, like I said, at that point, the idea of rehabilitation had been brought up so much. And I thought that like we'll see what happens with Shroud. I mean, surely if they're gonna do a season 2, we'll see what happens. I'm interested to see what ways they build off of this ending, because like I said, it comes to a similar kind of structure, but it branches out in a lot of different ways. But yeah, at that point I was very gung-ho on like, no, I don't think this is the right call to make. I don't think this is in line with not only the character I've been playing, but also the character I want to project to the Z team. I don't want them to feel threatened by it either. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if you aren't heroic enough or stoic enough, then, SDN will justify killing you.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think that's super valid. When going back a few episodes, I think it's Royd, when he asked you, it's either Royd or Chase, he does ask you, like,
I think it's Chase.
Would you kill him? Did you say no at that point too?
I said I wouldn't kill him, no.
Okay, see, at that point I was like, yeah, I'll kill him. Like, I was like, and I think it's funny because I said, yeah, I'll kill him. But I think if he didn't hold beef that way, where he was threatening beef, right?
Yep.
Beef
is a very important factor.
A very important factor, right? And then Invisigal gets shot, right? And you killed my dad, right? Like, that's a lot of strikes. And, he does, he can see everything, right? With his brain and the pulse in his brain and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah,
you can see so much. You can see all these outcomes. He literally says, like, if I keep you alive, like, my odds of surviving, right? And he tells you this, right? And I'm like, you know what? In my mind, I was like, you've just made yourself a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're right. You're done.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's fair, yeah.
But again, I was playing a very broken Robert, a very, like, somewhat, instinct and emotionally driven, and in that moment, if maybe Invisigal hadn't been shot, if beef hadn't been taken that way, right, then maybe there would have been enough rational and again, putting myself in Robert's shoes, enough rational thinking to not do that, to not kill him. But you have hit all these emotional beats of what is important to me that I can't let you stick around.
Yeah, that's awesome. Video games, man.
I know.
Just saying, in terms of like how I wouldn't say different, but like, yeah, how unique our kind of takes on the one character, where I just think that that's really cool, or at least our versions, our depictions of that character. I will say one of my favorite choices in the final episode is giving Shroud the astral pulse, because I chose to give him both, which I didn't realize at the time was a gotcha, because he couldn't tell which one was the fake one versus which one was the real one. And I thought that was hilarious, because it was something that I hadn't even considered would actually mess with his perception of like reality. And yeah, it just completely blindsides him in that moment. And I loved that. I thought it was so well executed, and yeah, well written.
Yeah. I gave him the fake one and he calls me out and then he threatens beef even further. And I was like,
Oh
see?
God.
I was like, see? No, this is why you gotta go. Right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, all right, here's the other one.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Justified. Valid. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you
'Cause
leave my dog
yeah.
alone. What does the dog have to do with this? Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and
From
let's
my
not
perspective,
forget, Chase also said if anything happened to that dog, he would go nuts, right? So I'm like, I am also,
yeah.
because at that point you don't know what, you know, you were still waiting for that. I'm like, at this point I'm also fulfilling Chase's, you know, if
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
happens to this dog.
Yeah. Yeah. From everybody I saw who gave him both, like much like me, it was a complete mistake on like everyone's accounts. Because my thinking was just like, let's just like make it so that like Invisigal's safe, Beef is safe, Robert's safe, like everybody's safe, and then we'll just pray for a Hail Mary at the end, which ironically you kind of get.
Yeah.
But I gave him both, and he's just like, "What the fuck, Robert?" I just thought that was so funny, and so like it broke the tension of the scene completely. But I guess the final kind of thing here is, did Invisigal redeem herself for you?
She did. She
Yeah,
did redeem
she did for
herself.
me though.
She steps in front, she takes the bullet. Again, me leading to why I was like, yeah, you have hit the out of the people that, he cares about the most, like you Beef, Invisigal, Dad, right? Like you have done this.
Yeah.
So she did come back and redeem herself. And I know that I know that there is an ending where she kills Shroud herself and goes back towards the villain life. And I was like, oh, like I will probably see that in my next playthrough, but I feel like that's also going to feel so painful.
Yeah.
Knowing, it's that knowing what could have been and then her doing these things. I feel like that's just that's gonna hurt. I don't know which will hurt more, cutting sonar or that, but they both feel equally as painful.
That's the thing. When I was playing it again, I felt myself kind of pulling my punches on some of like the harsher stuff, because I was like, I know what the positive outcome is for this, so I don't want to do the bad thing, or at least the mean thing. So yeah, that I haven't even seen some of the harsher stuff from the parts that I played.
Yeah, it's so rough. Oh, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was glad that she was redeemed. I was glad that she was part of the crew, right? That everybody gets to celebrate. And I
Yes.
think, and again, I think going back to also like Blonde Blazer or Mandy at this point, 'cause she doesn't have the amulet. It also goes back to what she has said in an earlier episode, where she even said, like, even if you could have cut Invisigal, she probably wouldn't let you because she really believes in her, right? And it's like, so we're also sort of fulfilling that moment of her belief that Invisigal can turn it around, right? So
Yeah.
it's like there is this other element of, it's not just you rooting for her, right? And it's not just the Z team, it's also Blazer from afar rooting for her.
Yeah, because that is a thing in the bit that I replayed as well, that Blazer, if you tell, there's like at one point Blazer asks like, oh, do you think that she can be redeemed, or do you think there's any hope for her? And I, trying to be mean, Robert was like, no, there's not a chance. I was just shit talking, I was just whatever, saying what she wanted to hear. And she doesn't like hearing that. Blazer, she kind of makes a face that implies that she doesn't like hearing that. So it is nice as well, yeah, that at the end to see that she has also been validated in having Invisigal redeem herself, if Invisigal redeems herself,
Right.
for your
Yeah.
playthrough.
Yeah, I think, you end up fulfilling so many wishes of other people in those moments, right? And I think even though my Robert ended up being the everyday man and obviously, killed Shroud and whatnot, I feel like that to me feels like the more heroic thing, where it's like you didn't just do the good things, you also did things that validated and inspired other people, right? You are now inspiring Invisigal to be better, right? You are giving Blonde Blazer the opportunity to just be Mandy and prove that like her instincts on people are right? Like Chase now has like this sort of second chance at life, let's say, with the amulet, right? And all of those things, I think, are what heroes, and this is going to sound really cheesy, and I'm sorry. I think that's what heroes are meant to do, right? They're meant to inspire people to be good and to be better. And even though some of the choices that my Robert made may not have been the best choices, at the end of the day, he is still being that inspirational figure. And it's not because of the suit. It's because of him as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the game in general, with the setting of it and the tone of it, it being, for the most part, more of kind of a workplace comedy before it becomes a superhero story, I think really leans into that. I really like that for the majority of it, it's not taking itself too seriously to be kind of, presenting superheroes in the best light, to be presenting these characters as these perfect, specimens, as these perfect manifestations, but instead as like flawed characters who are vulgar and who are, can be cruel. And again, that's what makes Robert work so well with the Z team, is having him be that flawed person at the beginning of the game and still being flawed by the end of it, but doing better.
Yeah. 100% doing better and ready to continue to do better. And it does really feel like, at least again, my interpretation of it towards the end was, it does really feel like Robert is ready to just be Robert, right? He doesn't need to be Mecha Man. And maybe there's a part of him that still wants it, and if it works out, great. But it doesn't feel like it's still a need, right? I think he is also seeing how he can be better and inspire and do all these things in a more safe way, right? Not that it's ever fully safe, but in just a different way than I think he could have ever imagined, being someone who just inherited this like Mecha Man title, right? So now he has another way of moving forward. And that's why I think even when he's talking to the team, episodes prior, where he's like, you all are phoenixes and you all are this, right? There's an element of, he's talking about it to the team, but I think it's also what he needs to hear and, what he is now going through, right? The second playthrough, because I'm being a little rougher around the edges vocally, he's like, you guys are just a pile of shit right now, but I can did that be one phoenixes, as well. Right? So it's like, that's, to me, I was like, I think that's also how he feels when he looks at what his life is outside of the suit. But now here's this opportunity to rise and be even better. So I think there's just so much that woven throughout the game. And if we do get a season 2, right, which I do hope that we do. And I know they said, well, now we have to think about it because it's done so well. So yes, please keep thinking. I hope we don't get Robert in the suit, right? Even if he's not the main character, let's say, I kind of hope that we continue to see a little bit more of that evolution, right? And does he fully, because I think it would be also interesting, does he fully let it go? Right?
Yeah, maybe that's when they bring in kind of what I was suggesting, where you could choose to, like, do I really even want to be Mecha Man? Do I just want to be this leader for, these people that kind of need it and stuff? Like, yeah, that would be an interesting thing to reckon with. What kind of, how many ways can you be a hero? Like, in what ways do you need to be a hero? What ways are more important to you, and then also ultimately, to everybody else? Season 2 is actually what I wanted to talk about next, because the ending leaves some interesting like verging points, with Sonar and Coupe, and whether you do or do not, redeem Invisigal, all of these things. Do you've kind of said, like, do you foresee a season 2 being about this cast, or do you think that they do something different? Or because I think they will do a season 2. I don't really have much doubt about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think they'll do a season 2. I don't know that it'll be this full cast or that they will be the main cast. I think they will still be in the universe. And that's why I think even if Robert isn't the main character, it would be interesting to see the grapple between the two, right? Whether he becomes Mecha Man or, whether he's just sort of, training the next dispatcher or, whatever, right? But I think to see him in some role, would be interesting to see how he ends up through everything that's happened. I don't know, because I wouldn't want exactly the same thing. So then I think it's also, how are you making it different enough, right? What is it that is is changed. But I would like to revisit this universe in another way. And I know that the Critical Role people did like a one shot within the Dispatch universe. I have not watched it yet, again, because I have a really hard time.
Yes, I heard about
Like,
that.
yeah, I have a really hard time with those sorts of things, but I do want to give it a listen or try to listen, because I think that will also potentially change the way I think about what a season 2 could look like, right? Could it just be within the universe, and have they sort of fleshed out the universe enough that you could do more? Or has it pigeonholed so much that you have to follow these characters? And I don't think it has. I think, especially if you have bought the enhanced version or whatever they called it, that came with the comic books and the art stuff, you see more of the universe that's fleshed out, including the first time that Coupe and Punch Up meet, which is very interesting.
Oh wow, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah. So that's in the enhanced version, which, if you think the game is amazing and you didn't buy the enhanced version, please buy it.
I've heard that there's
money.
I've heard that there's some like conflict between Shroud in one of those comics. They've come out and said the comics are canon, and some people are like, wait, that doesn't make sense because there's something about Shroud. But I didn't see too many details.
Yeah, it's the final comic that comes out, which is the death of Mecha Man. So you actually see Robert's dad die.
Oh shit! I might have to track that down.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think you can still buy the deluxe upgrade.
You can still
as
upgrade.
like DLC. Yeah, I might have to do that to have a flick through those at some point.
Yeah,
I kind of wish they were physical.
Same. There's like
I would love to have a comic.
Is it 6? I think it's 6 comics, because the first 2 are technically half and half. So you get some of Waterboy's story. You get so you get Waterboy. You get the death of Mecha Man. You get Coupe and Punch Up meeting. There's one with Malevola. So you get more background on these characters. So there is a universe that they have already started to build. I would like to see them flesh it out more and see more. Maybe it's something totally different and we're at a totally different branch of SDN, right? Like, if we're on one coast for this one, maybe we're somewhere else. But I think it could be interesting.
The thing with those kind of endings is that I think recently we saw this with The Last Life is Strange. That was kind of a crash course in how not to pick up an ending from a choice-based game. It can be rough following up. Like I think even Walking Dead had this issue where they made like 4 seasons of that, and every time they kind of had to canonize some stuff that was otherwise a choice in the game prior. And I think that with this one, people are so attached that they might not get away with that. But I think that there's enough stuff that's closed
vague
in
enough,
here,
yeah.
you know. Yeah, that's canon almost. I don't want to imply that anybody's, ending is the true ending, but I think that there's some stuff that they could kind of, if they wanted to continue this cast, they could. But yeah, you still need to incorporate that dispatching gameplay. But if Robert is Mecha Man again, how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I could almost see it being, as sort of silly as this sounds, I could almost see you playing as Mandy for a bit, right? Like,
that could be cool.
I could see, if there's other SDN places, right? Maybe because Mandy obviously now does not have the amulet, she is sent to another location to work as a dispatcher to try to keep some of her identity secret, right? Because obviously now everybody in this location knows. So you move her to another branch, because then you could still, if you romanced her, right, you could still have her in this sort of long distance relationship with Robert, right? And if he does go back into the suit, maybe there's a scene or two where he flies out to where she is, so that, and even if he's not in the suit, right, you could have scenes of her and Robert, where he flies to her in the suit, or he has to pay for a plane ticket and he sees her, and so you could tweak it just enough to have both of those options. And then you could have some of the other characters, again, as very side characters, right? Malevola can go through portals. She could show up for whatever, right? Maybe there's a moment that you have to pull in, someone from the Z team for something, and you get to pick, right? And so you could...
Yeah, they guessed to help out the team, right? A new Z team or something, yeah.
Yeah, so you could do it, but I think maybe playing as her while there's stuff going on with Chase to find another way to save him. And this is all happening in the background. So you don't lose sight of those characters, but you do get to relive some things without without it changing the choices you made.
Yeah, I do worry that, you know, because you're saying like, oh, Robert can show up if you romance if you romance
If you
Blazer
want
and
to,
stuff.
you know.
Yeah, I do worry like they'd have to really consider that though, because like I said with the Life is Strange game, a big
Mm-hmm.
problem with that was that you could romance. Am I allowed to spoil Life is Strange in a
Yeah, nobody liked
dispatch
it enough
spoiler
anyway.
cat? Yeah. Okay, well, yeah. You romance Chloe, and then
Mm-hmm.
if you choose to, you know, let Chloe live at the end of Life is
Yeah.
Strange 1, there's this whole thing where it's like that you grew apart. It's like I sacrificed a whole town. What do you mean we grew apart?
I sacrificed her so quick. No, I mean, and it's,
How
it
dare you?
doesn't have to,
Chloe slander
you know,
right in front of me.
with Robert, I think it doesn't even have to be all romantic, right? Like I mentioned the romance part, but it could also be platonic, because it could also be if she is struggling with her team, right? Maybe he shows up to give her like
Yeah, you're right.
some sort of guidance, right? And it's the matter of whether or not when they first see each other, there's a kiss or what, right? Something that alludes to, oh, we kept your romance, but he is still part of her life in some way, right? So I think there could be very delicate ways to handle it. And maybe if you didn't allow Coupe or Sonar back onto the team, right, then maybe they're just not an option if you're having someone guest star, right? So I think there could be ways, but I think to really do it without treading over people's decisions, you almost do have to go to a different location and change it up a little bit. Because yeah, if you really didn't want Coupe back on that team, and then suddenly season 2 she's back on the team, right? It's like, well, why?
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, it's interesting to think about. I guess we'll just have to wait and see as well, because I do think that it's inevitable. I think the fact that they made an original concept, which is something that Telltale never did, as far as I'm concerned. Like Wolf Among Us is based on fables. I don't think Telltale ever had an original project.
I think they did very early on, but I don't think it didn't bring them to the occasion that like.
Yeah, I don't think it was even a choice-based game though.
No.
I think there's like Hector or something I have in my Steam library that's by Telltale, but I think it's one of their old point-and-click adventure games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, like we'll see what happens. I'm very excited for it either way. But is there anything else you want to talk about before we kind of wrap things up here?
I don't think so. I think we covered all like the really important stuff. The dispatching, the synergies, the characters. I think if you happen to have $10 lying around after you've bought the game but not the enhanced edition, definitely get the enhanced edition, because the one thing that I think I mentioned very briefly is there is an art book that's also part of it, part of the enhanced edition, and it's really interesting to see the evolution of the characters in that art book, because this was a project that they worked on for so long, and I am so glad that they ended up with the designs that they ended up with after looking at some of the initial.
It's one of those art books.
It's one of those, yeah, and they give you more background on the characters too, and you can, I just feel like it took them years. I think they said it was 7 years in the works, from the time they initially thought about it and the TV show concept to, the pandemic and then video game concept and all these other things. But when you look at what they initially thought for every character, for the suit, for this, right, for every step of the way, I'm glad that they took their time with it. And I think, the best way to give them the credit where credit is due is to like see some of that. And then even just imagine what it looks like, what it could have looked like, and how we got such a polished product at the end of it all is fantastic. So normally I'm not like spend more money, but in this case, spend a little bit more money.
Well, actually, my hope is that I can wait and then spend even more money, and that they do a physical edition of the game that comes with that stuff, because that is the type of thing I think I would really like to have physically, especially the comics, if they combine those into like a graphic novel. But I do want to check those out. I do want to see the extra bits of lore. I think that there's such a world here they've created that to me, it's like, okay, they said they're going to do a TV show. So that means that we are getting more dispatch. But to me, it seems inevitable to keep going with, a season
more.
2. Hopefully not too much, though. Because I do think with comic book and superhero inspired things, They tend to go a little off the rails. Like, I don't need like
Yes.
10 spin-offs of The Boys or you know,
Mm-mm.
everything. I don't need to keep up with the Dispatch universe.
No.
You know, just give me a show, maybe some comics, and
Mhm.
the games.
Yeah,
And,
I
and
think,
we're okay.
and you know what? I think maybe just one more game. Don't
Sure. Yeah.
don't drive it, too far. Obviously, the team that they have there can really do like new IPs and really do that. So
Yeah.
you did really good with this. Maybe make one more, but also start thinking about what's the next new thing. Because I think that is what a lot of people are looking for too. I don't need more sequels or more remakes or, I think that's also why this hit such a chord because it was so, again, it has some tropes, but it's still very fresh. And I think
Yeah.
we just need more of those fresh ideas.
Exactly. Well, with that, thank you for joining us for this debut Gamer Social Club spoiler cast for Dispatch. Thank you so much, Candy, for your time and for chatting with me. Once
Thanks for
again, if you want to
having me.
follow our other... Oh, no problem. No problem. Once again, if you want to follow our other work, make sure to subscribe to the Gamer Social Club channel on YouTube and podcast platforms for the weekly news show and for Girl Pod, as well as our upcoming Game of the Year content, which will be hosted by me. To check out our written work, make sure to head to gamersocialclub.ca, and hopefully we see you again soon for another Spoilercast discussion. Thank you for watching.